Today, we're diving into a connection that you might not see coming. We're talking about the deep link between Bitcoin and that feeling we all get about freedom, control, and, our place in the world.
You know that feeling, right? It's 3 in the morning, everything's quiet, but your brain is just racing. What if I'd taken that other job? What if we moved across the country? What if my savings weren't just sort of melting away? It's that raw existential hum, that feeling of being a little bit trapped.
But here's a wild thought. What if the very thing that so often feels like the source of that trap, money, could actually be the key to breaking free? What if it could be the antidote instead of the anchor holding you down? That's the huge question we're going to try and unpack today.
So, to figure out the antidote, we have to diagnose the problem first. Let's call it the fiat funhouse nausea. It's that dizzy, disorienting feeling you get that our whole modern financial system just doesn't quite add up, that the rules feel, well, kind of rigged.
And to put a number on that feeling, look at this. $36 trillion. That's the U.S. national debt. It's a number so huge it almost breaks your brain, and it creates this constant low-level hum of instability under everything we do. And this chart right here shows you how that instability hits home. This isn't just some far-off government problem. Global inflation means the money you work so hard to earn and save is literally losing its power every single day. Whether it's the global average of over 4% or the absolute catastrophe of 120% in a place like Venezuela, your savings are leaking value. It's like you're running on a treadmill and someone else keeps turning up the speed. The philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre actually had a word for this exact feeling: nausea. He described it as that vertigo you get when you realize you are completely, radically free to make choices, but you're stuck playing a game that feels absurd and rigged from the start. It's that clash, that friction between your own potential and the reality you're stuck in.
And Sartre, he also gives us this amazing lens to understand why we so often just stay in that state. He called it bad faith, and it's basically a form of self-deception that has huge implications for our financial lives.
So, what is bad faith? Well, to put it simply, it's when we lie to ourselves. We pretend we don't have choices, because facing the terrifying responsibility of real freedom is just too much. It's so much easier to say, I have no choice, I have to work this job, than it is to face the raw anguish of actually choosing your own path forward. Now, this slide just lays it out so perfectly. You've got two completely different worlds here. On one side, there's the world of fiat's bad faith. It's where we tell ourselves, just trust the banks, keep your head down, grind away for dollars that are worth less tomorrow than they are today. We basically surrender our control. But then you have the other side, Bitcoin's radical authenticity. And the whole philosophy is different here. Self-custody means you choose, your keys, your worth. It's an active, conscious decision to defy that absurd, rigged feeling system. And that brings us to the antidote itself, sovereignty. And let's be super clear, we're not talking about Bitcoin as some get-rich-quick lottery ticket. We're talking about it as a philosophical tool, a path to real, tangible freedom that's built on the foundation of digital scarcity. I absolutely love this metaphor. This is the whole point, right here. The goal of sovereign money isn't just to pile up more wealth. The point is to give yourself wings, the freedom to move, to choose, to build a life on your terms, not on the terms dictated by a system that feels like it's failing. And make no mistake, this isn't some fringe, wacky idea anymore. I mean, look at these numbers. A market cap of over $2 trillion, more than 500 million holders around the world. And, this is so important, it's providing financial access to over 400 million people who were completely shut out of the system before. This is a massive global movement.
Okay, but theory is one thing. What does this freedom actually look like in the real world? Let's get out of the abstract and into the real stories of real people who are using this to go from being in chains to seeing new horizons. These stories, they're just incredible. I mean, think about the engineer in Venezuela using the Lightning Network to literally escape hyperinflation and get his family to safety. Or the accountant who, after a windfall, completely sheds his old identity to become an adventurer and sail across the Atlantic. Or just the sheer power of sending aid directly to people in Ukraine, knowing it's not going to get siphoned off by some corrupt bureaucracy. This is what sovereign choice makes possible.
And this isn't just a handful of feel-good stories. The data actually backs it up. A Fidelity study found that people who have even just a small, 5 to 10% of their portfolio in Bitcoin report a 20% higher life agency score.
That means they feel more in the driver's seat of their own life, they feel more empowered. In a world where, according to Gallup, a whopping 70% of people distrust the traditional system, there is a measurable, real-world agency gap here.
Okay, so, the big question. How do you start? How do you take these giant philosophical ideas and actually apply them to your own life? This final part is all about action. 4 practical, philosophical exercises you can do to begin your own journey of reclaiming your essence.
Let's just walk through these real quick. First, the freedom on it. Just identify one fiat chain in your life, something like annoying bank fees, and just map out a tiny Bitcoin pivot. Second, absurd scenario planning. Brainstorm how this tool could be a buffer if things get really chaotic. Third, essence dialogues. Have a real conversation with a friend about who you would be if money wasn't writing the script of your life. And finally, a nausea meditation. Seriously, just take 5 minutes and visualize that fog of the old system lifting as you hold your own private key. These are small acts of rebellion, and they build existential muscle.
And that really brings us to the final and most important point. This whole explainer, all these ideas, it all boils down to one simple question for you. After seeing the nausea, the bad faith, and the possibility of an antidote, you have to ask yourself, what chain will you break first?